were grading Seiya Suzuki today, and we were debating before the show what grades we were going to give, and I was like, oh, I don't know. I was hemming and hawing. First, I started with a C, and you guys pointed out that he was, WRC plus, was top 20 this season. He had this great offensive season. And I was sitting there going, all right, well, yeah, I don't know how I compared him to other guys, and I don't like numbers. I like Stucky stats, which are just made-up numbers in my head. And I understand that. And all I can think of this year is three facts about Seiya Suzuki. One, overall, he's a good offensive player, right? He is a good offensive player. Two, he is a horrific defensive player, okay? He's a terrible outfielder, and I've seen way too many adventures out there in the outfield for that to continue. Finally, at the end of the season, they figured that out. Three is I want him to hit more home runs. He's a great offensive player, but I want him to have that thump that they so desperately need. And we keep going into each season saying, is this the year that Seiya hits 30, 35? Right? Can he finally be that guy, the big thump? Like, he shows you he hits the ball hard.
Yeah.
He shows you he's one of the better hitters in Major League Baseball. He knows the strike zone. He's not a guy that goes flailing away like Christopher Morel did. I just want that to harness into a little more power, the power that he showed when he was a player in Japan. It hasn't happened. So now the question for me becomes, so overall, I put those things together. I said, okay, fine. I'll give him a B. I went from a C to a B minus to a B because of the WRC plus. You guys talked me into the stats. So like this is it.
I didn't talk you into anything.
Okay.
I actually encouraged you to give him the lower grade. That way people yell at you.
You wanted me to get yelled at more. I know. So I finally settled on a B, and I'm sort of regretting it because of some of the things I just said. The defense for me, I can't watch it anymore, and I just want the power to be there. But the reason I ended at a B is some of his flaws are now Jed's fault. They're now the Cubs. They're now Craig Counsell's fault. Seiya has flaws. He's bad defensively. They should have recognized it a long time ago. He's a DH and an occasional right fielder. They figured it out. They put Bellinger in right field. That's the way it should be. I don't know what the situation is going to be next year, but I don't want Seiya playing right field on a regular basis. And that is not his fault. Unless you want to say, listen, this guy's got to get better defensively. Magically, at his age, he's going to get better defensively. He is who he is. Stacey King, know your personnel. He's not a good defender. Get him out of right field. Fine, he's a good hitter. The power thing might also be a front office problem as well. Maybe he's just not. We keep dreaming and hoping and wishing that he's going to be this 30, 35 home run guy. If he's not, he's not. It's like Nico. So I those are reasons I would have given him a C, but in reality, I'm starting to think none of them are his fault. He's just the player he is, and they need to realize it. If he is who he is, I gave him a B. He's a good hitter with not enough power and bad defense, but those aren't his fault. Necessarily all his fault.
No, I mean, well, I was right there with you at a B, is what my grade ended up being for Seiya Suzuki this season, and I thought he had a really good offensive year this year. He had a 138 WRC plus that was, I believe, 16th in baseball among qualified hitters. Let's see if I can find the numbers for these guys, but yeah, I think that was it was ahead of Francisco Lindor, Freddie Freeman, Kyle Schwarber, that level of player. A little bit behind what Jurickson Profar did, Corey Seager, Mookie Betts, right in line with them. 16th in WRC plus, and I think his OPS he was also top 20, maybe 18th.
This is where you started to sway me.
Right around Schwarber, right in between Schwarber and Francisco Lindor. No, I thought he had a really good offensive year. The defense and the fact that mid-August he didn't play right field again after that. But I don't think he did, at least. But That's when he became full-time DH.
That's what Jay Andrews is saying in the chat too. He's like, we've been crying for the DH since his first season. Yes. They finally figured it out, right?
Yeah, and I don't know if that was, I don't know how much it benefited him versus because guys, some hitters like to play field as well because then if they strike out, then they can just go in the field. They have to get ready for the next to play defense, right? But sometimes if you're just going back into the dugout, you have time to think about that. I think Seiya, when he started DHing a little more, had talked about that as far as like trying to move on to the next play. And I think he got better at that as the season went on. And, his numbers, again, like I said, they were 18th in OPS, 16th in WRC plus, right around a lot of great hitters. I agree with you. The power thing, or the power numbers weren't necessarily where we wanted them to be this year. And I don't want to bring up the weather thing, but I did look it up because I know Luke hates the weather thing. I did look it up on the road.
Bring up the weather thing, but let me get the forecast out for you.
Hitting away from Wrigley Field, he had a 150 WRC plus, 10th in baseball. He had a 914 OPS that was 9th in baseball. So outside of Wrigley Field, and I guess this also just includes like every player playing on the road. But
so what was he at Wrigley Field?
At Wrigley Field, he was down more in like the 700s, and I can grab those numbers real quick. But what I'm trying to say is, I do think for him, hitting at Wrigley Field half his games probably affected his numbers. Not that, again, it's Wrigley Field. Like, it's the weather. You can't control that, so you can't be like, oh, boo-hoo, right? Mm-hmm. But they did affect his numbers, and he still had really good numbers to end the season. So I think that's part of me thinking, like, had Wrigley Field not played the way it did this year, what would those numbers have looked like? They did. That happened. The results are the results, but the results were still really good on their own. Yeah, it would take me a while to scroll through and see where he's at as far as away from or at home, his home numbers compared to the rest of the league. But so I ended with a B. Sorry, I'm talking in circles here. I ended with a B. I thought the offensive season was really good, especially considering some of the environments he was playing in. But the defense and the fact that like they brought him over, he was going to be the right fielder of the future, or at least for the 5 years on his contract. Like that was what he was supposed to fit into. And he just doesn't, you don't feel comfortable with him out there right now with 3 years into it. Like you were, and the fact that PCA started hitting and could play every day in center field, the fact that Cody Bellinger could move over to right field, like that obviously played a part in pulling Seiya Suzuki off the field and DHing him, because your best defensive lineup had Happ, PCA, Bellinger across the outfield. That also plays a part in it. But I would be curious to think, like, if Seiya was had performed better defensively, how would they have filled out that outfield, right? They made the decision a little easier for filling out the field because he wasn't performing very well defensively. So that was a disappointing part of his season, to see where you're 3 seasons in now. You've played, and I know Wrigley Field, right field is a tough position to play, but we're seeing that like you don't necessarily feel comfortable with him out there. Like there was a lot. I mean, I think the drops, like there was a few of them, but it wasn't like he was dropping one every few games. It's not all that
makes him a bad outfielder, though.
No, it's not. I think that the routes that he runs is something that he has to get better at. Like I think there's all that, but I think the drops make him seem like exponentially more of a bad defender. Yeah. When I don't think that's necessarily true.
It makes it a little more glaring sometimes.
Yeah, but I do think like he disappointed what we kind of expected at him as defensively. That now, even if Cody Bellinger leaves, like are they going to move Seiya back to right field?
Then we got a problem. Can we go to what James Colstock said just a little bit earlier on this chat? I wanted to get to that real quick before we get to Cody. He says, I can't give someone a B who we acquired to be an outfielder and forced his way to just picking up the bat 4 times a game. Come on, man. And that's what I'm saying. But my thought process on it has changed, James. My thought process is they're the ones that signed him with that thought. And it wasn't like he was saying, hey, I am a Gold Glover in Japan. Like, that's factual, but it's clearly a different award in Japan than it is here, right? Like, So he is who he is. I agree. After 1 year, I was disappointed with Seiya because I looked at the defense and I was like, this isn't the guy. How is this guy going to be your everyday outfielder? He's not a good outfielder. But now we're several years into it. That's up to the team to decide that, listen, he's not going to get better. It's not like this is a 22-year-old kid and we're going to teach him to play the outfield. He is who he is. He's not a good outfielder. And it is a bit of a problem that with the flexibility of the team, if you can say, all right, we really don't want to put him in right field, you could put him in right field if he was Juan Soto because you can live with it because the guy's going to hit all these bombs. But you're not getting that power production, despite the fact that he is a very good hitter and they have some really good hitters. He's not giving you that power production. So that's there's been a lot of different grades in the chat. Some people are mad that I went as high as a B now.
Yeah.
And now I'm feeling like I should go back to a C.
Now I feel like
maybe I should go back to B minus.
Well, were we too high on Seiya's season? Or
I'm interested to see all of the.
Can I go back to a B minus?
I'm interested to see what all of the bots say when we put the graphic
it's like
out.
Ryan trying to do that the other day. Not happening.
Whatever.
I guess for me, it's always like I think the fan base, and myself included, we've put the expectations too high for Seiya Suzuki. Should I blame the front office for that? Based on
selling that?
Yeah, should I blame the front office for not... I don't even know if they're really selling that, but should I blame the front office for not doing more to make the team better? Or should I blame Seiya Suzuki for just not having a 30 home run season like he did in Japan? You know what I mean? Like this is where I'm at with Seiya. Sure, the defense has been
sus.
Especially this season, it was really disappointing. Because I don't care what you say, Luke. His defense was exponentially better in year 2 than it was in year 1. Year 1, you gave him a little bit of a break because he had never played in Major League Baseball. He had never played at any ballpark around the league.
His defense is as sus as my takes.
Well, in year 2, it was so much better than it was in year 1. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying he was a Gold Glove outfielder, but it was better in year 2 than it was in year 1. Everyone will always look back at the drop ball in Atlanta. One play. Like Ryan said, he's had some bad drops that people look at that and they're like, that's what he is. That's why you can't play him out there. But in year 3, it was bad. Yes, I agree with you on year 3. It took a massive step back in year 3, in my opinion. All right? But I'm not saying that all 3 years he's been so bad in the outfield to where he should have always been a DH.
Some of his routes to fly balls remind me of Bragg's after about 7 beers at the tailgates. They're weaving all over the place.
Shout out to Blue Moon.
Whatever. I'm arguing apples and oranges when it comes to his defense.
I'm sorry, this is your take.
All I'm saying is that in year 3 it was a big disappointment. But I'm also saying that it hasn't been as bad as year 3 his entire tenure with the Cubs. I think that's fair to say, okay? And I'm not going to take the time to go find some old ass highlights of him taking bad routes, Luke. I'm sorry. All right. But let me finish. It's my turn. All right.
We're done. Says the guy who interrupts me all the time.
He hasn't even given his grade yet. Go ahead, Cody.
Well, another point that I'm getting at, and this leads me to more just blaming the organization than Seiya Suzuki, is he made like $19 million this year. He's made at most $17, $18 million every season. You look at some of the top paid outfielders out there. Aaron Judge makes $40 million a year. Mike Trout, he's been hurt the last 3 years, but either way, $37 million a year. Juan Soto this year, $31 million a year. Mookie Betts, $30 million a year.
Good point.
Chris Bryant, unfortunately, hurt. He's not living up to it. $28 million. Bellinger, we've already graded him.
I was going to say, should we be comparing him to Bellinger?
Bellinger made $27.5 million this year. You can argue that maybe we should have given Bellinger a lower grade based off money alone, okay? Yelich, before he got hurt this year, he was having his best season since his MVP year, all right? Has he been a disappointment since signing that contract extension with Milwaukee? I think Brewers fans would tell you yes. Any logical ones, which there aren't a lot of them, but whatever. George Springer, he's at the back end of his contract, $24 million this year. But I don't know what Blue Jays fans would say about him, but he has a lot more proven play who have earned more money, all right? Teoscar Hernandez is going to get paid a lot of money based off what he did this year with the Dodgers. Made $23.5 million, all right? Then I get to Ian Happ at 21. I think as we graded Ian Happ, I think he lived up to everything that you paid him to be. What we've known about Ian Happ for years and years. He showed up and did exactly what you paid him to be. Seiya Suzuki, if you just look at the 3 years of him playing with the Cubs, he has put up the same numbers. He had his best offensive season this year. So you look at an offensive standpoint, it's like, am I putting too high of expectations? Is he worthy of? Should I put those types of expectations? I came into this year hoping that maybe he could emerge as an MVP candidate in the National League, because I thought if he were to do that, then the Cubs would outperform any projection. And for 3 weeks in April, he did, and then he got hurt with another oblique injury. And then he was he was fine the rest of the year. He put up another solid year and in many ways was better than year 2 offensively. But is he a consistent run producer? No. I don't look at the RBI stat as much as I did when I was a kid. But if you're going to hit 3rd or 4th in the lineup, you got to have more than 74 RBIs. Bellinger had like 4 more, and he was hurt twice. So my question is am I and fans putting too high of expectations on Seiya Suzuki when, at least in Major League Baseball, has never done more than what he's done the last 2 years? He was better the last 2 years than he was his rookie season, okay, as far as offense. My biggest gripe with Seiya for sure is that the defense has not showed up as it was advertised. Whether winning a Gold Glove in Japan is different than winning a Gold Glove in America, okay? He is giving you really solid offensive seasons, but he's not a 30 home run hitter. He's not a superstar caliber player. But the last 3 years, we're all just like, maybe this is the year Seiya does it.
Hope and wish.
And we're hoping. We're hoping for this. There's nothing that shows, there's no proof in Major League Baseball that Seiya Suzuki is that. He did it in Japan, and sure, like, Japan is big, like, baseball's huge there. And Ohtani, we've seen guys come from Japan and be really good at this level. But until I see him actually have a 30 home run season with the Cubs, then, like, I can't mark against him for not living up to what I hope.
It's a fair point.
You know what I mean?
That's what I'm saying. I've turned my anger about Seiya's production sometimes, wherever those flaws may be. I've turned that to the front office and the manager who keeps playing him at that position more than I have him. I don't know if that's right or not. That's just the way it started to go. For you guys, which one is, we've talked about it. It's the defense and the lack of, we want him to be a 30 home run hitter. Which one would you rather have? For me, it's funny because, you know, I grade Nico and I take his down because I want more power out of him. And I say, well, you know, his defense, but I value the defense. At least it's elite. And I know I'm a hypocrite. I go back and forth. Mm-hmm. But there's no question for me that with Seiya, if he could improve in one spot, at this point, it's not the defense. If he could hit 30 to 35 home runs, I'm happy with him as the DH in the way he hits. Yeah. I could also hope that he would be slightly, and this maybe isn't fair, slightly more durable. Because he's also had some injuries where he's out, gaps, and you're like, got some oblique things that seem to go on.
I think with Seiya, and this goes to the environment and offense, and this is just in baseball, not specifically Wrigley Field. Like, offense was just down in baseball this year. For whatever reason, the offense was just down across baseball. So, like, you look at Seiya's numbers, and a lot of them are pretty similar to what he did last year when you're looking at, like, on-base percentage, batting average, slugging, OPS, like, all that kind of stuff. But he went from a 128 to 138 WRC plus because the environment in baseball, it was harder to hit in baseball this year. So I think you have to put it in that context of, like, he wasn't 900 OPS, but, like, a lot of guys that were 900 OPS weren't this year. Like, I think you have to put it in the context of he had those numbers. Did he improve the numbers by a ton? No, but he put up the numbers in 2024 versus in 2023 when 2024 was harder to hit than it was in 2023. You just look at the numbers across baseball. That's just kind of how it was. So I think you do give Seiya credit for that while the numbers didn't necessarily drastically improve, they improved because the numbers across baseball, it was just harder to hit in baseball this year. And I think that's part of it is you had a really good offensive player. He didn't have like that. Actually, he did have like that August and September that he had in 2023. I think he hit really well to end the year as well. He could be a little bit more consistent. I would agree with that. Like, just more consistent across the 6 months, because I think his May was a struggle again. But he had this is a guy that in baseball, while a lot of players' numbers were down and just baseball numbers were down, this guy managed to keep those level or improve on them. And I think that's a credit to him that year 3, he became a better hitter. Even if the numbers don't necessarily say it, he did become a better hitter and a little bit more consistent as well,
So,
I think.
I don't know if I said it, but I gave him a B.
Oh, there you go.
I don't know if I said it.
We should have
But-
drum rolled. We should have
but-
drum rolled.
All B's.
To-
I
to
wish I
me-
could do a B
to-
minus.
To me, it's
Law
like
won't let me.
he's signed a 5-year, $85 million deal.
It's affordable in today's
Oh, yeah.
baseball.
It was affordable when they signed it.
That's
Yeah.
more than just affordable in today's era.
We all silly like the mayor.